Donald Trump is a freaking menace. That is who he is.
Is there a white genocide in South Africa?
No, there's no sign of it, never has been. In fact, whites are economically the strongest group. They benefited from democracy more than anybody else. 64% of all boardrooms in South Africa are still white. The average income of white South Africans are vastly higher than black South Africans.
The President of the United States is an embarrassment and a liar, and the latest example of embarrassment and lying came in front of not just the President of South Africa, but in front of the entire world.
Donald Trump's attempt to humiliate the South African president today was not in the United States' interest whatsoever, nor was it intended to be. It was intended to serve an audience of one person, that apartheid Nepo baby, Elon Musk.
Death, death, death.
President Trump has made several false claims about violence against white farmers in South Africa in a tense meeting with the country's president. He played this video on a big screen in the Oval Office, saying it showed burial sites for over 1,000 white farmers. But it doesn't show burial sites at all.
Can we all agree that this is one of the most embarrassing things that we've ever watched? I have a message directly for Donald Trump, and I really hope he sees this.
If you saw the White House meeting yesterday with the South African president, you saw Trump pull out two things, which were obviously in an attempt to justify, this season of America as the most racist country on planet Earth. He showed a video where there were crosses like lining an interstate, like a road, and supposedly those were all like the burial sites for, many killed white South Africans. And then he also showed a picture of like a burial. All right, well, it has come out now that those two pieces were not as he presented them. So let me tell you what they were, so you can push back against the bullshit talking narrative of the MAGA cultists. Because these aren't just mistakes. These are deliberate attempts to manipulate the narrative to justify this importing of, fresh white blood into America.
Hello, lovelies. Welcome back again to my channel. It's so good to have you. Thank you so much for clicking when you saw this video. So I came across this on my FYP of I don't know if you guys still remember, that was a meeting between the South African president and Donald Trump in the Oval Office, okay, just a few days ago. And guess what, a lot of people are reacting to it, and the people that actually surprised me are the white Americans who are coming out to fact check the president and saying that truly there is no white genocide happening in South Africa, especially around the farmers. And they have actually come out to talk about all that is happening and why this is not about America, somebody who promised America first. Why then is he including himself or involving himself in something that has to do with South Africa? And to think that most of these people he's actually fighting for are not from America. So how come we are still talking about MAGA when we are not acting towards making America great or making America first? Okay, well, I'm just going to let that videos roll, then we'll come back and talk more. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up so that more people can see it. I'm ready to all creators on this video, so let's go watch, then I'll come back with the commentary.
Donald Trump's attempt to humiliate the South African president today was not in the United States' interest whatsoever, nor was it intended to be. It was intended to serve an audience of one person, that apartheid Nepo baby, Elon Musk, who has the white supremacist goal of reasserting apartheid in South Africa. And of course, this effort is going to fail. South Africa has gone through much worse than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. No policies will change, and the only result will be that the United States is humiliated, like we always are under this president.
Okay, so I just need to make sure that you guys have heard about this, because if you saw the White House meeting yesterday with the South African president, you saw Trump pull out two things, which were obviously in an attempt to justify, this season of America as the most racist country on planet Earth. He showed a video where there were crosses like lining an interstate, like a road, and supposedly those were all like the burial sites for, many killed white South Africans. And then he also showed a picture of like a burial. All right, well, it has come out now that those two pieces were not as he presented them. So let me tell you what they were, so you can push back against the bullshit talking narrative of the MAGA cultists. Because these aren't just mistakes. These are deliberate attempts to manipulate the narrative to justify this importing of, fresh white blood into America. Still with those crosses that were lining that road. He's saying like, oh, these are fresh burial sites, and these are all white farmers who are being killed. No. Those crosses were from a 2020 protest, as in they were put there to make a point, not because they're burial sites. And then Google went back and looked, and in 2023, that very same road, no crosses. You know why? Because it was just a protest. So our president is so dumb that he actually believes that someone doing a protest, which is basically a form of art, okay, that those were fresh burial sites. And he's saying that that's white genocide. Okay, Gramps, take a nap. And when you even look at this claim, it doesn't even make sense, okay? In 2024, there were 44 killings in the farming community as a whole, and only 8 of them were farmers. 8. That isn't genocide. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave me some fire emojis down in the comments. Back to the video. Now let's deal with that picture that he held up, that it looked like a burial. So that image, it wasn't even in South Africa. BBC hunted it down, and then Reuters verified it. That was a February 2025 clip filmed in Goma, the Democratic Republic of Congo, tied to a report about women's deaths in the area. Nothing to do with farmers and nothing to do with South Africa. So I just wanted to push back against that because I've heard all the right-wing puppets talking and using those videos and those images. They're not even related, guys. That has nothing to do with what is going on. They want to import people for reasons that I'm sure I don't have to explain to you. When you get rid of everybody that's brown and then you start bringing in people who are, well, you do the math. Y'all tell me why he's doing it.
So Donald Trump had one of his White House press conferences with another world leader. This time, it was a gentleman by the name of Cyril Ramaphosa, I believe. He is the president of South Africa. Now, this man happens to be black. And you thought you might have a nice little conversation. Donald Trump would talk about all his big wins that are bullshit. But that's not what happened. What happened was an ambush, a la President Zelensky. Donald Trump had been getting some pushback about bringing these white South Africans in to this country. He was making claims of genocide against white people in South Africa. So he brings this president in, and he immediately goes after him. He has a stack of conspiracy theories on paper and hands them to him and wants to show a video and all this stuff. Everything that Donald Trump said about this alleged genocide in South Africa is not happening, but he needed to prove his point, give a reason why he brought these people in. The bottom line is it's about racism. It's about performance. It's about stupid shit. That's what Donald Trump does. So once again, he embarrasses the entire country by bringing in a world leader. He ambushes him, gets unhinged. And then when the press start asking him questions like about the plane or whatever, he loses his shit on them too. Here's a guy that doesn't have the temperament to be a president. Fuck, he doesn't have the temperament to be a cashier at a grocery store. We're getting tired of seeing these things. It's an embarrassment. And how many more embarrassments do we have to go through before the Republicans say, enough?
It's okay to talk, bring in people from any country to your country if you want to, but why pin it on people and say that they are, having white genocide when nothing like that is happening? Even when the president of that country is telling you that nothing as such is happening, you still believe the fact that you have received reports only for you to present facts that are not real, really happening in that particular country, but other countries, you're not bringing it as your evidence to prove your point that such things happening. And the one that baffles me most is the fact that those cross, yes, it was in South Africa, but those are not signs of graves, but people who were protesting, and they kept those things there. So how come you decide not to believe any other person but the ones that you've gotten? I thought when you want to really get evidence of something, you have to get like different people to come and talk about it. Then you're able to deduct facts from these people. Everybody presents your evidence, but no, you decide to get one and just stick by it. You guys, that's funny.
Can we all agree that this is one of the most embarrassing fucking things that we've ever watched? I have a message directly for Donald Trump, and I really hope he sees this. Honestly, everybody needs to try to do everything that they possibly can to make this go as viral as possible, so somehow he sees this video. There is genocide occurring all across the entire world, and somehow you seem to be focused on white farmers that aren't even from this country. The most contradicting fucking part about all of that, though, is that you have the audacity to call that shit a genocide, but yet you can't address any of the actual genocide that people don't believe is occurring in Gaza. You could have even talked about the Congo since you want to bring up shit happening in Africa, but yet you didn't. And then you allow them to resettle in the US as refugees? Is this shit a fucking joke? Why don't we bring up the problems that are occurring in our country that seem to have a lot of similarities to that of what happened to the white farmers? Shit, we could talk about sundown towns all fucking day. But yet that shit doesn't seem to ever be addressed. I wonder why. Then the fact that it's been reported that those murders that have occurred in South Africa, right, account for less than 1% of 27,000 annual murders nationwide. How does that equate to a genocide? At least 3,131 Palestinians have been killed and over 8,600 have been injured since the end of the 2-month ceasefire, which a special little group just so happened to violate, since March. And of course, that's not the first time. I wonder why. See, if people knew a little more about people like Jonathan Pollard, right, their eyes would really be open. Shit, if you want, go look into the Pegasus spyware for me real quick. All it takes is just a little bit of digging. But yet, here you are, allowing somebody else that you look up to and you idolize to form an opinion for you. You don't search for answers outside of that little box of comfortability that you can find yourself within inside of this infrastructural society that, let's be honest, doesn't really do anything for us to begin with. And of course, you'll have your average person that's like, oh, well, if you don't like it here, why don't you just move out of the country then? Dude, that is funny as fuck. I love when people say that shit.
Death, death, death.
President Trump has made several false claims about violence against white farmers in South Africa in a tense meeting with the country's president. He played this video on a big screen in the Oval Office, saying it showed burial sites for over 1,000 white farmers. But it doesn't show burial sites at all. The crosses, in fact, were part of a protest in 2020 against the murder of 2 white farmers who were shot dead on their farm. Trump also held up a series of articles which he said were evidence of killings. He pointed to this blog post and said it showed white farmers being buried. But the image isn't from South Africa. It's actually from a report about women being buried in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Trump has repeatedly made a discredited claim that there's genocide of white farmers in South Africa. The country has one of the highest murder rates in the world. There were more than 26,000 murders last year, according to police figures. 44 were of people within the farming community, and 8 of those were of farmers. The figures aren't broken down by race, but they clearly don't show a genocide of white farmers as Trump claims. Earlier this year, a South African judge dismissed the idea of genocide in the country as clearly imagined.
The President of the United States is an embarrassment and a liar, and the latest example of embarrassment and lying came in front of not just the President of South Africa, but in front of the entire world. Seemingly some research was done here that's really at the level of like a 6th grader who's cramming to write a paper that they forgot about for the past month. It was showing the President of South Africa a series of news clippings that were allegedly supposed to support his false claim that there is a genocide of white farmers. Except this clipping right here was a general article from a tiny news source that has absolutely nothing to do with South Africa. This is talking about general tribalism in Africa, and this right here is from an attack that took place in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You might remember when that happened. It was absolutely awful. It was back in February when over 100 female prisoners were raped and then burned alive. Donald Trump is doing here is using a clipping talking about black women being killed in a different country to back up his claim of a white genocide in South Africa. That is how fucking unhinged the United States is right now. Donald also showed old footage of an anti-apartheid song being sung at a rally for a small party that won 9.5% of the vote in last year's election. Now, Donald also showed this, which is gone. He said this is still here. It's not there. He said every single one of these crosses was for a white farmer that was killed. This entire thing was a memorial for one couple that was killed in 2020. God rest their souls, but this was not representative of thousands of white farmers. This was about one couple. To get at Trump's claims of white genocide, we could just look at the actual data. There were 26,232 murders last year in South Africa, one of the most dangerous countries in the world. 44 of those killings were in the farming community, and 8 of those people were farmers. Let's say, for argument's sake, every one of those farmers was white. That would mean 0.03% of the murders in South Africa last year were white farmers. Is that a genocide? Man is a lying fuck and an embarrassment to the country, and he is setting us back on the world stage every day.
Now, let us actually be real, okay? Let's be honest with each other. Is there really a white genocide happening in South Africa? Because if there is, when they brought in a plane to pick up people who will be interested to move to the United States, I don't think that those people who are still there will be there. Why is it that it's just 49 of them that decided to move instead of 8 million of them, right? I've seen people talk about 8 million of them or 8,000. I've forgotten how many, the figure exactly. But why are we just having 49 people? Because you can't tell me just 49 of them who lives in South Africa. Because this other man who is a farmer, big farmer, who left his mom over there in South Africa. Like, he left his mom and his dog in South Africa only to come to the US. And the only thing he told us is that I'm at peace, and of course, I have to make sure my daughter is at peace or safe. And he goes on to tell us that everything, if he touch water, he's called a racist. He does this, he's called, like, why do we have only rich people coming in to the country? And these people are people who are doing so well. All of a sudden, they are now coming in seeking asylum in the country as refugees instead of staying back in their country where they have stayed all through, but they just want to, come with the narrative that they have been suffering through a lot, or they've been going through a lot, even when you and I know the truth. If you have actually sat down to really study what has been happening in South Africa between the whites and the palm-colored, and you will know definitely that all of these things that they've been saying, it doesn't sound true. Like, it doesn't sound true at all, okay? And to think that the president is telling you that this thing is not happening in his country. Some of the pictures that is being shown is even coming from Congo, BBC, or who, I don't know if it's only BBC or other people have actually been able to prove the fact that this is not happening in this country, right? Some of them have bring out facts. I've seen content creators say that this some news channels, some people have brought that far to say some of these pictures are not coming from this place. Yes, the cross came from, the picture of the cross is in South Africa, but now it's okay to say I want to bring in these people, and don't try to now make it look like these other people coming from Africa is most important, and you now try to paint a narrative that will suit your claim to bring them into the country. Bring them in. You have the power to do that, right? That's what everybody's saying. Everybody's like, you're bringing these people, then why are you facing this? I've seen comment section, right? People are like, why did South African president actually go there? I think he just wanted to clear the narrative that this thing is not happening in his country. Like, he's just so shocked to hear that something like this is happening. South Africa might not be a very great country, okay, might not, they have their own issues. Every country have their own issues. South Africa is a beautiful country. They all have their own issues. We have our issues. Every country in the world have their issues, right? But don't make it look like they are against you or they're against anybody that is coming from your end. Don't make it look like, right? I think in Africa, we accept more colored people a lot. So how come are you making it look like these people are against these other people when in the fact, in essence, it's not true, right? So watching that thing that happened at the Oval Office, I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? Okay, even when this man was saying, I can't remember this saying, I don't know this saying, you were just like, anyway, guys, share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd really love to read from you guys. Okay, let me know what you think about today's video in the comment section, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I look forward to seeing you all on my next video. Thank you so much, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up so that more people can see it. I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Bye, guys.